Tony, we've got a big week and month of earnings coming up. How does this change the way you are looking at companies as they prepare to deliver their results?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And if you look at the kind of trends in technology, generally when things become more efficient, increases demand and there's more ubiquity. And so it wasn't that long ago, a few months that we were all debating that like the cost was too great to deliver. And so where's the ROI? And so I actually feel like this is TAM expansionary for the market long term. I think that Mandeep, obviously has highlighted what the market is kind of talking about today. I think that's a very valid concern. But Javon's paradox essentially is that when things become more efficient, consumption goes up, demand goes up, and so I think that's necessary. That's healthy. I do think that there's a little bit of sensational reporting, perhaps on Twitter, and just in terms of how DeepSeek only took $6 million to train. I think that's a nice marketing number, but if you dig in, that doesn't include R&D costs, experimental runs, and the market the model is a lot smaller than what ChatGPT is, and it's only text based. So there's a lot of reasons to think that this is not exactly a kind of direct comparison. They do have a lot of great breakthroughs in the efficiency of the model, obviously, but I think it's good for the industry and it's open source, and the players will, the community will adopt the innovations and then further kind of pursue like kind of AI in a bigger way, I think.
To that point, let's just reconfirm to our audience what it is that DeepSeek has done, because Bloomberg Intelligence, Bloomberg News has been reporting on DeepSeek for months. Bloomberg Intelligence ranked it as the 7th most powerful LLM all the way back in June of last year. But now it gives us the fact that its latest R1 model is as sophisticated, many would say, on the internet and other experts out there, is as sophisticated as that of Anthropic's latest model or of OpenAI's latest model, but they've done it at a fraction of the cost. But $6 million is what is reported to have been cost. We haven't been able to delve into the veracity of that number. Tony, when it comes to the rush to the bottom, ever more cheap of applications of generative AI, do we therefore see Microsoft have to cut its prices? Do we see ultimately revenue and profitability of these LLM providers having to become less?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I would say that, for one, like we don't know what OpenAI and Anthropic are going to release next. And a lot of times, there are so many innovations, the market is moving very quickly. So it could very well that they've got something that's really exciting to be launched. So that's number one. I think number two is that a lot of times, this is a fast follower, perhaps model that has a ceiling in terms of what it can do versus larger models. And it's, OpenAI is going to be multimodal with their model. And, I think there's a lot of innovation that will happen. And then I think that at the end of the day, there's a lot of kind of ecosystem building, enterprise aspects that also factor into it. So I think that the market for LLMs can be more diverse than people are giving it credit for.
Is this a buying opportunity, Tony, to stack up on Nvidia even more?
Look, I think long term, you think about the technology trends, and I don't think that just because there's one model that is more efficient that people are going to say, okay, we're just going to stop here. At the end of the day, everybody's racing towards hopefully AGI and looking to continue to invest. And I think that you saw Mark Zuckerberg, even though he knew about DeepSeek, since it was released over Christmas, you saw that he actually increased CapEx spend. And so, I think that it's not just the model, it's also the compute as well. And so I think that as there's more demand at the app layer, this is actually good for filling up the compute capacity that we're building.
Tony, you talked about Mark Zuckerberg and his announcement last week on CapEx. Is there any thought to the way these companies should revisit those spending plans? Are they going too big? Is it too big and maybe not efficient enough?
Yeah, well, naturally, absolutely. I think that everybody's going to their engineering teams and saying hey, what can we do? This is an open source model. Let's take it apart. Let's figure out how we can incorporate the best. And, as costs come down, I think that actually increases the number of use cases. And then people say oh, well, I wasn't able to afford perhaps the latest equipment because of the cost of doing so. We're not sure about the ROI. And so I do think that it's absolutely natural, but I don't think that companies are going to say like, oh, like, let's just stop here. And because there are so many like potential benefits, the kind of goal at the end of the day is pretty grand.
Tony, I wanted to follow with a question about the potential policy responses from Washington. Given the hawkish mood toward China with the new administration, do you see any risk of a response that would pose a challenge to the companies that you own and are taking a look at?
Yeah, well, I think that definitely there might be some geopolitical aspects of what's going on this week. I think President Trump announced the Stargate project, and so this was perhaps DeepSeek is a response to that. In that, the question is like, can you build AI more cheaply and openly versus like building a bunch of AI infrastructure? And I think that my view is it probably you need both, and each country will continue to race towards AI capabilities, and I think there could be some export restrictions more along the way possibly, but it does show that perhaps like restricting isn't particularly helpful, because then you actually bore innovation out of scarcity. And I think that what we've seen is that there is a lot of innovation to be had, and I think competition is good, and at the end of the day, like, you want an open market.
Who will win from your portfolio from that innovation, or potentially from that shift from hardware more to the software side?
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time, because I do think that at the app layer, this improves kind of the ROI, obviously, and anybody that has like a really sticky customer base and then large kind of apps that they have a lot of data from, I think that's good. I do like the AI infrastructure still. I think that there's still steady kind of consistent demand there, and the history of technology would say that people take that innovation, that improved performance, and they put it to good use for developing the next tier technologies.